What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again for another very special episode with another very special guest. And today, my guest is the great Rebecca Reaney. Did I pronounce that right? Your surname? Reaney, is that the right way of saying it?
It sounds really posh. It's actually Reaney.
Oh, Reaney. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Renee makes me sound much fancier.
It's Reaney then. Okay, so Rebecca Reaney, there we go. So let's start that one again. Okay, so Rebecca and I've had the pleasure of working with Rebecca recently on our recent show at GSA, Widows by Ariel, Dorfman and Tony Kushner. And Rebecca sort of introduced us to the work that she'd done on her MA course, which she's finishing this year at Central. And and it was a genuine pleasure to work alongside her and to learn all about different things related to movement. Although I wasn't mainly there, she works with mostly the girls on their movement sequence stuff, but all the same, it was good to work on other things as well, like the fight sequence that we did and everything, which was a lot of fun, even though I was the one getting beaten up. So, but it was good fun. So anyway, let's take a moment to introduce Rebecca. Rebecca is a British movement director and teacher with over 25 years of professional experience working in the performing arts industry as an actress and as a dancer. Her movement heritage began with ballet, tap, and jazz from a young age to a professional level, where she transitioned to movement as a more somatic healing journey, leading to her 200-hour certified yoga instructor, facilitator in chakra dance, and yoga body breath coach. She began her career working on the musical Saturday Night Fever as an associate director. In 2018, her movement directing debut was the short film Christina's World, which became part of the official selection for the Cascadia Dance Film Festival in 2019, both in San Francisco and in Washington, D.C. And the short film Moved, which you can catch on the Central website in her bio, which I think is a wonderful piece of work, was selected for the Phoenix Dance Film Festival and LA Shorts in 2020. She has taught across prestigious drama schools across the UK, having been currently at Central and also at GSA. Had to throw that in there. She's taught Shakespeare and physical theatre throughout America as part of the Shakespeare for a New Generation program, and is part of the faculty team of the award-winning drama school in Los Angeles and in London, and then it's called the Identity School of Acting. And even more so, her credentials as an actress, she has worked in the West End, and some of the shows she's worked on are Blood Brothers, The Mousetrap, Fame, Singing in the Rain, and Oh What a Night, directed by Kim Gavin, who was involved in the 2012 London Olympics. New York and US tours include Aquila's theatre productions of Macbeth, Hamlet, The Importance of Being Earnest, and Sense and Sensibility. Various TV appearances, including Amy Barlow in BBC Doctors, P.C. Lewis in ITV's Emmerdale, Lenny Henry's BBC comedy pilot, Rudy's Rare Records. Great alliteration there. International films include a work on the epic Tarzan 3D, award-winning children's film The Kids from 62F, and Buttons, A Christmas Story, alongside Dick Van Dyke and Angela Lansbury, plus international recognition for her lead role in as Kayleen in Sonny J's music video Hands Free, directed by BAFTA-nominated Erin Creevy. And if that's not enough, she is also fluent in 2 languages, one of them being English and the other one being German. And my goodness, what a smattering of words. That's so impressive. Like, that must be insane hearing all that out loud. Like, what does that do to your head?
It makes me feel like I'm 107 years old when I hear that.
Nonsense. That's impressive. See, like, you've worked across, we were talking just before we came on, you've worked in London and in the UK, and of course you get across the pond every now and then to talk about your work in Los Angeles. And I suppose to kick off really today, before I have sort of a main question to kick things off, but just before we get into that, what's the difference between working in the UK as well as in America? Or is it kind of the same, or is there kind of culture differences?
Massively, and I think we believe that we are very similar because we speak the same language, but actually culturally we're massively different. And in terms of acting, very, very different industries. We have a huge historical theatre history in the UK, and in Los Angeles it's all about Hollywood making movies in the studios, and it's a very different energy. And both, I think, are really valuable, and both serve, and both you can learn a lot from. But one thing that Hollywood runs on is energy. So it runs on the energy that you bring to the room right there, right now. it's less about where have you trained, where have you worked, and more about where are you right now and what do you bring to the table. Whereas the UK, it's steeped in much more history and tradition and established institutions that a lot of people more question, you know, where did you train? Have you worked at the RSC? Have you worked at the National? And there's much more history, I think, and heritage in the UK.
Yeah, definitely so. So yeah, I think to begin at the beginning, as Dylan Thomas says, this is a question I sort of have adopted with all my guests now, is I'm always interested in the beginning of an artist's journey. So for yourself, where did the inspiration to become interested in movement and as well as acting, where did it all begin? Where did it come from?
I think it's not that romantic sounding how I started dancing. I think I genuinely wasn't making friends and my mum wanted me to make friends, so she sent me to ballet class. I think that's the truth of it. In terms of movement, and part of my MA course was that the first week we had to present our movement heritage to the group, which was like a 15-minute presentation of our movement through the moment we're born until the present day, which is an amazing exercise, which is very much something I'm taking further into actor training. But the one thing I realized was that I'm deep down just a little child of nature, and I used to be just picking flowers and moving around the gardens, skipping, jumping into puddles, very kind of governed by the seasons. And then at about 5, I went to ballet class and loved it, and really loved the structure of it and loved everything. I was very short-sighted, so I couldn't actually see. So I think I quite liked the form and the structure of ballet, because it was very like, I knew we'd start at the bar, I knew then we'd go into the center, I knew how it would progress every week. So I started with that, and what I loved, I think, was telling stories through dance. So I loved ballet for that. And then I became involved with all of the competitions that you do as a child, and my dance school was very rigorous advanced training for a local dance school. It's Livingston Academy of Dance. They're based actually in the West Midlands. And actually Drew McConey, he went to that school, who's actually a choreographer that I've worked with and is very prolific in the dance circuit in the UK. And I started there and then transitioned more into wanting to tell stories with my voice. So I went from being a dancer, I started working at 16 in Singing in the Rain. I went to, it's now the Birmingham Conservatoire, but I did a postgraduate in acting at the Birmingham School of Acting. I still stayed in musical theatre until I sort of transitioned more into plays. I was always interested in, being that voice for the voiceless, feeling things and putting those stories across, whether that was through dance, through acting. And then I think when I moved to Germany, which was after a good 15 years in the industry, I sort of started to become very interested on the other side of the industry, about the creative side. And that's when I first started working with Ryan McBride. He's the artistic director at the Mercury in Colchester right now.
Nice.
But I became his resident director for a couple of shows that I worked on with him. I worked as an actor as well as a resident director, and I sort of really started to get interested into that side of things. And one of the shows we worked on was Saturday Night Fever, and I became very interested in how to support actor musicians with choreography, and how I wanted to find a way for actors to embody the choreography, as opposed to when you teach choreography to a dancer, it's very, very quick and they just pick it up and they do it. Whereas for an actor and an actor musician, particularly, that they don't all have history in dance. So I became very interested in making dance accessible to anyone and everyone. And that took me sort of into a very different side of things. I still continued to act. I moved to Los Angeles then. I was training with some great acting coaches in Los Angeles. I was working with Aquila Theatre in Shakespeare, which was wonderful. But again, I started to feel that my passion for acting was waning, and that my passion for coaching actors, for teaching movement to actors, and movement direction was becoming much more prominent. And I think that lined up with, at the same time, I had a bit of a sort of health scare. I suddenly went running, which was very normal for me too. I was a keen runner, and I suddenly couldn't breathe. And it was, a long story short, it was very terrifying at the time. When I went to the doctors, they said, we think you've got asthma, which was really strange to suddenly have developed asthma very late on in my life. And that prompted me to then start looking at more healing types of movement, which led me down the path of yoga, and then working with the 7 energy centers, the chakras in the body, which hand in hand has now facilitated the work I do with actors, and has taken me back to where we started from, really, which is movement, connection to the movement within us, tuning back into ourselves, and using movement as a form of self-discovery, self-knowledge, as well as for actors, for transformation into different characters.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's so cool. I don't know why, but I just get this image of, like, because one thing I think you instill in us, well, I think all the movement people sort of instill in us in drama school is, like, there's like performativity in everything in a way. So, like, even just like you said just now, like picking flowers or something like that, and just that small generous movement is just can create something really quite extraordinary in a way. I get this image of, like, yourself, like, walking through Regent's Park, and you're seeing kids pick flowers, and just like either they're being very quick or they're being very, very slow, and you're thinking, that's a very lovely movement you're doing there. I might use that for a bit later. And,
It is fascinating. I think if you watch people, and I think that's a huge thing coming from being an actor, which we are, as you are now as well, obviously, you're nearly completing your MA. We are hugely fascinated by the human condition. So people watching for us is just a great hobby, because we can just sit, have a coffee, and watch people go by and create backstories, be fascinated in how they move, their little mannerisms, how would I describe that in a language? And I think, I'm always finding moments of, like, that's beautiful. I think as well, I've always viewed the world in quite a cinematic way. Like, I see an image, a shot that I'm like, oh, that would be a wonderful shot. And it often involves nature, or something moving, or colors, or just a story without words. Because there's so much said without words.
Absolutely.
And it was lovely, actually, on my way to have this meeting with you. I was listening to your podcast, and I was listening to Rose Ryan.
All right.
Who I've just only met last year, which has been wonderful. And I feel really lucky that I got both Rose and Sabs on the production of Widows as my movement gurus and mentors and leaders. It was wonderful. But what was I talking about with Rose? She, we were talking very much about how everything is very connected back to yourself, and that breath and that sensation in yourself. I do. I think humans are fascinating. And this is something that I'm very passionate about, is that I believe actors are incredibly important, because they remind us what it is to be human. And I think and this is from Vanessa Ewan, who's one of my course leaders on the MA course at Central School of Speech and Drama. She says that actors have to be more real in unreal circumstances, whereas we are in the real world behaving quite unreal. We've always got a mask on, we're pretending, we're showing ourselves in a way that we want to be accepted, or we want to fit in, or we feel like we should be behaving in a certain way. And then suddenly actors have to come into a studio or a rehearsal room and drop that pretense. And we go, okay, let's get back to who you really are. Let's get back to the real, because that is the stuff that's the most compelling to watch. It's the stuff that all of the people that turn on Netflix, turn on the TV, that's why they turn it on, because they want to feel, because they're not necessarily feeling always in the real world. Isn't that crazy?
No, amen to that. That is absolutely right. I've always thought that, but you've just articulated that just brilliantly about just, you know, the pretense and stuff like that we have in life. And it's funny how, I think it was Marlon Brando who said that people act on a daily basis. So people just in life in general. And it's funny, as you say, he comes to the rehearsal room and suddenly it's like, okay, the mask now falls away, the pretense melts away, and it's like, okay, this is actually who I am. And it's like, I didn't recognize this person when you walked in. It's like, and you're a completely different person. And it's like, it's fantastic. I think fantastic in a constructive way, in that, you know, it's melts away all pretense. And I think you're like, okay, yeah, I do act up a little bit, don't I? And it's hard to recognize it yourself sometimes.
I mean, we wear different masks for different people. We have different interactions. This is, I think, something that is definitely my future work, and something that I became very aware of when I started working for Identity. Femi Ogans, who created Identity School of Acting 18 years ago in London, he wanted to create a different type of drama school. It's a part-time drama school to begin with as well, but he called it Identity. And he's very big on students finding their identity. And something that he would often talk about is this sense of that actors need to trust and know that they are enough. And I loved that. And it ignited something in me, which has been very much the work I do now with movement, with actor training, is that we have to get back to this real, authentic self. And that's who you are. It's not your identity based on the job you've got, what's in your bank account, who your friends are, where you come from. That's not really as much your identity, as opposed to you just being just you, with your, you know, impulsive sensations, instincts, thoughts that come from you and your makeup and your heritage and your experiences. And when actors can really trust that, that's when you see truth and reality and humanity. And in effect, it's a little bit like you said, it's kind of letting the pretenses dissolve, and you realize how hard's not the word, but it is the resistance to let that happen, because it's something that we don't do in normal life, which really leads me on to think that actors are the most extraordinary humans in the world because of that reason. And I think more important now than they've ever needed to be, for the reason I mentioned earlier, which is to remind the world of what it is to feel, to experience life fully, to tell those stories. Especially now that we're all online, bent over our phones. Even our bodies are changing because we're bent over our phones. You know, young people have forgotten how to communicate. Especially with the pandemic, we've had a whole serious 18 months to nearly 2 years of not having contact or touch with people. It is more important now than ever that actors have to do that work, which is terrifying and bold and exhilarating and all of those things in one, and continue to do that work so that they can tell the stories of humanity and the human condition.
That's quote of the episode right there. No, it's absolutely right. That's that echoes what Oscar Wilde said. Actually, he said, I'm not going to get this right, but he said, I regard the theatre as the greatest art form because it shows a human being what it is like to be a human being. And
absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's always been the case. And Shakespeare, we're both paraphrasing two greats right now, paraphrasing wildly now, but Shakespeare's, hold a mirror up to nature to show this is what you all do.
And Hamlet's advice to players,
yeah, exactly, yeah. My apologies to both Wilde and Shakespeare there for just paraphrasing.
Me too. Don't strike us down now. We love you. It's all good. But I think, and again, I'm gonna just, Oscar Wilde said something else as well. Something that the chancellor of my uni, because when I did my graduation ceremony, he stood up. I think it was Sanjeev. It was in meet. Oh no, what was it called? It was in the Kumars. It was like the main guy.
Yes.
The son. Yeah, he's an amazing man. It's just so lovely. He stood up there and he said to all of us, as Oscar Wilde said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that takes me to something else, which is I'm not sure we all really know who we are. I think the majority of us have put on, again, the masks from a very, very young age of who we think we should be, or how we have to behave to survive, to fit in, to whatever. And I think that's absolutely valid. And yes, suddenly we have to go, hold on, do I actually even like doing that? Do I really like that person? Do I? And we question it because we've got so used to behaving in that way that we actually don't know who the authentic self is. This is a lot of the work I did with like all the chakras and that movement side of thing of energy centers and Carl Jung's theories of the authentic self, and how we have to strip back to almost unlearning everything that we thought we were and get right back. And it really does start with connecting back into the breath, the body, becoming aware of sensation, impulse. So it really does lean itself into movement, because then when we start listening to that, then we're driven by something real. But when the other thing that I'm a big believer in, and I know like theatre practitioners in the past, like Grotowski, I'm studying at the moment, they really talk about your own story, knowing your story. And I really believe that you really need to own your own story of life for you to be able to own the stories of the characters you play.
Yeah.
Because if there's a slight disconnect and you think you're something, but it's actually kind of a bit of a pretense of your story, and you've made your story sound nicer, or you've kind of shoveled away certain parts of your life story that you don't really want to talk about, and they're sort of in the cupboard slightly. Let's not talk about that, but and we're sort of not fully owning the story. Then when you start stepping into the story of a character, and suddenly there's connections making that you're either could be triggered by, you're like, oh, that sound feels a bit uncomfortable, or something that you're not connecting to, and you're like, why am I not connecting to that part of the character? It's most likely because there's a part of your own story that you've not fully connected to. And it's something that I think the more we really know who we are, the better we can serve everybody in life. But certainly as actors, the more you're aware of your story and how we're so multifaceted, that we're not just the Instagram worthy versions. We're also the sides of us that we don't want to talk about, that we are a bit ashamed of, that we're like, oh, let's just shove that one away. But the more we bring that out and go, yeah, there's the anger and the jealousy and all the other stuff and the fear and all of that, the uncomfortable feelings that we don't want to discuss. But actually, the more we have all that out, like, yeah, that makes me feel really uncomfortable. And I find myself shutting down when that happens. And it's information for an actor to go, oh, that's interesting. It helps them understand themselves and their own instrument, because don't forget, an actor, it's the most elusive, mysterious craft, because not only are you the instrument, you then also have to play the instrument. You know, a musician gets the instrument and they play it. The dancer has the moves and they can, execute the moves. An actor, it's your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your mental state, your physical state, embodying the story of another character, but it's still your body, your sensations that you're experiencing. So the more the actor really knows themselves, the more they can then notice connections to characters, notice disconnections. It builds that awareness of humanity, and it has to start with the actor's awareness of their own humanity. And I think, and this goes back again, if actors really go on that journey, and it's not that you do your BA honours in acting or your MA acting and then that's it, you're an actor. It's a constant, it's a journey that just kind of only really begins the minute you graduate, and then it's a journey for a long time if you choose that path.
Yeah, I think Rose says exactly the same thing. Rose Ryan at GSA, I think she said, I'm not sure if she said it in the episode that we did, but she definitely said it in class. She's interested in like people, very similar to what you said just now. People walk into the room and they kind of think, okay, I'm just going to park. I'm not feeling too great today. I'm just going to park that and just like put a smile on my face and just do what I have to do. But Rosa's like, no, bring that anger into the room. Don't just bring it in, and because with Laban as well, because it helps with the efforts like dab and thrust and slash and all that kind of stuff, especially having like a day like that. But like glide and oh no, my brain's gone.
Press,
Press,
ring,
ring,
flick, dab, thrust, slash,
slash.
float.
There's 8 of them. Yes, float.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, but it's so interesting to have that idea, because both of you are movement people, and it's just like bring it into the room and have that authenticity to show and play your instrument as well. We've all, it's quite clear. Obviously, sometimes we play characters which are a massive departure from us. People who maybe a drug dealer. So I've never been a drug dealer in my life or something like that. But sometimes we play characters who are close to, like maybe a kid going to university for the first time, or doing that. You remember that fear and that anxiety that you first felt, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, I remember that. And you bring that to the character, and it helps to create, because that's our job, to be believable. And sometimes we have to use ourselves and our own experiences in a way. I'm just curious to know, actually, when it comes to because there's a big stigma around method acting and stuff, and I've had some workshops last year, yeah, about demystifying that process. Like, it's not going to live in the jungle for 6 months to be the character. It's not, I'm talking about Daniel Day-Lewis, he walking around New York with Bill the Butcher's hat on for 6 months in New York, pretending to be Bill the Butcher in New York City, and I think some people sort of think that method acting, taking stuff from your own life and presenting it like an emotion memory and stuff like that. Some people say that's too much, or that like they can take it too far in that respect. I'm not meaning to discredit anything you're saying. So everything you said today is fantastic, but would you say that there has to be a limit in a way? Or
well, I come from, so just to be clear, when I talk about owning your story, that doesn't mean you necessarily are using your story.
Yeah.
Owning your story is about really getting on a journey with yourself for the whole of your life as you evolve, so that you fundamentally makes you a much more rounded, balanced human, because you can see everything and explore everything and not be afraid of that. I think there are 2 ways of thinking when it comes to drawing on your experience. I'm very much in the camp that I believe we use our imagination as actors.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, when I was an actor and I tried to draw on, personal experiences of something similar, I couldn't do it. Because, interestingly, on a neuroscience, sort of neurobiological level, if you start trying to remember a sad event or a traumatic event, the brain kind of wants to shut down, because it's going, why are you thinking about that? I don't want to think about that. So it actually shuts down and you can't access it, because a survival thing kicks in of like, I don't want to think about that, thanks. So you find yourself going, oh gosh, it used to be really sad that, and now I can't feel anything. So I'm not one of those believers in drawing on your experience at all. Because I believe by the age of 7, you've had every emotion you ever need to feel. You've experienced it. The reasons why you felt it will be very different. When you're a child, that sense of despair you felt when you suddenly lost your mom or your parents in the supermarket and you were left in an aisle was deep despair. You felt despair at the age of 4. That's in your body. If you're then playing a character that's a drug dealer that's feeling despair, you don't need to have been a drug dealer to feel despair. You felt despair. The only difference is that you're then relating it in a different focus. It's the reason why you feel despair is different to the reason you felt despair when you were lost in the supermarket. And I think it's really important that, for the reasons of mental health in actors, this is, I guess, my argument as to why I think I would not want to draw on personal experiences.
Yeah, of course.
Using your imagination can take you to wherever you need to go. Okay. Within that, you're stepping into the shoes and imagining what if, which is that famous what if.
Nicely, yeah.
How, if I felt such despair at, you know, if you were a drug addict, that not having, you know, a hit, I'd feel that despair, that rage. It's finding out how and why. You're finding the connection, the feeling. You've already had the feeling. So that's where I believe that it is possible that actors can play different characters. Some people will have had more life experiences that maybe lend towards that more, but I don't think it's about drawing on your experience. I think it's about trusting and knowing that your imagination combined with your connection to your body, your breath, knowing that you're enough, you can find that way. And then you build it. You build what's your need, what do you want out of this? What do you get when you get the hit of the drugs? So, well, I feel peace, then you're after peace. We all know what it's like to try and go after peace, or, you know, support or freedom. So I think it's about combining imagination, and I think it's the Warner Lockling technique uses that very much, which Amy Adams uses. And it's about, you create the backstory in your imagination. It's not like, oh, that time when I was 12 and I had that moment, and you're trying to recall it, but you're recalling it in a way that's not visceral. But if you take yourself on a journey and imagine it and embody it, then it's very powerful. And then that's not connected to you. And that's where it's very separate. There's the art of you telling the story of this character, and then there's you. You are the vehicle that tells the story. So it's going to be your imagination, your sensations, your emotions, but it's not your life. You're not reliving past traumas or anything. It's someone else's story. And that, I think, supports actors into being aware of, like, and that's the end of that character now. And now I become, you know, Rebecca again, or, you know, so playing Lady Macbeth, I couldn't ever be imagining. I was like, I wouldn't kill a king. I mean, if you come in like that, I wouldn't kill a king. It's very hard for me to try and get any connection to her. But if I connected, and which is what I did, to her need to be validated, her need to be important, I absolutely can resonate with that. A need to be recognized. Yeah, okay, I can feel that. I felt that. A need to be, at least, you know, recognized, important, right? And that's what drives me into that character. So yes, that's my. And so when it comes to Daniel Day-Lewis with wearing the hat, I think, and this is something Rose said, and I share Rose's opinion on this. And I'm probably now destroying everything that anyone's ever said. I do think it has to start with the body. I think you have to get it in your body. You have to walk the text, walk the sentences, feel the rhythms of the text, so you feel the rhythms of how this character thinks. Sitting down at a table, when I used to do that, was great. Oh, I was brilliant in my head. Oh my gosh, I was playing an amazing Lady Macbeth in my head. And I was like, oh yeah, and she'd feel really like this, she'd be feeling this at this point, and this is where I'd come in and do this. And oh, I saw it beautifully in my head. And then when I got up on my feet and moved, I suddenly felt really awkward. I was like, oh, I don't know what to do with my hands. So like suddenly I don't know what to do. And so I think, and it's interesting that this process is still being used, because I think if we were to get in our feet and, you know, what shoes are we wearing? Are we barefoot? What shoes does this character wear? Like, find the shoes. What's the terrain we're walking on? What's around me? If you're doing a scene in a kitchen and it's your kitchen, let's set the kitchen up, because how you move then is very different. You know, if we were having this conversation in my kitchen, I'd know exactly where everything was in my kitchen. Okay. And I could move without having to look for everything. I'd know where it all was. I know where the fridge is. I know where the cooker is. I know where my mugs are kept. The more we bring it into the body, then I don't think actors are left flailing, going, oh my God, I want to get in my body now for this. I am in the belief that we need to embody it first and build the text, because it all starts with the body. We're reading the body before you say anything. So it's funny how we start with text sitting down reading and then bring it into the body as opposed to the other way around. Let's move, let's you know, think about kids. They do make-believe. They pretend that they're a shop owner and they set up the shop and they're doing it all because they're just like, they're fully acting it. Why is it not the same? In a way, we've got to feel like, what's it like to, like, you know, to be a butcher? What's it like to be a, you know, all of these embodied history. You can tell when someone doesn't embody something. You just you can totally feel it. So
yeah,
my apologies to anyone that is a big believer of the table read. I'm a big believer of the table read when you've moved first.
Yes, move first. Don't do that. No, I think your father does that as well. I've heard that she doesn't sit down with the cast very much. She's like, all right, come on, we're up on our feet, we're moving around. And I think, and I remember like when you came in to lead like the warm-ups in our rehearsals for Widows, you know, you would straight away go, all right, guys, let's go. Like up on your feet, walk as the character, you know, get that feeling in your body first, and then the words will come after that, which was great. I think I've spoke to someone on the show called Christian Patterson, who's a dear friend of mine, lovely man, great actor. And he said learn your lines standing up as well. So walk with the lines. I think someone said take a line for a walk or something like that. Take your lines with you, because as you say, like sometimes we read our lines at the table, going, okay, so to be or not to be, that is the question. But it's never the mind. Something great. Okay, great. I've got it in my head. Stand up. Shit, what was my first line again? And you just go,
always.
Yeah, and it's almost like the body goes, and this is me paraphrasing Christian, he goes, the brain suddenly goes, oh wait, sorry, walking and talking at the same time? So I thought we were sitting down for this to be or not to be. And it's like, no, walking. Oh, well, no, I'm sorry, I'm just not there. And it's like, and you have to get it up on its feet and walk around. So yeah.
I absolutely love Barbara Hausman's work, and she wrote Tackling Text, and she did Finding Your Voice. And Barbara Hausman she's kind of a little bit of an idol for me in terms of applying. She gets you up on your feet to tackle text, to break text down.
Yeah.
She doesn't get you sat down doing it. She gets you up on your feet. First exercise, walking the sentences. So you walk the sentence, which if you've ever walked to be or not to be, that speech, there's only 3 sentences, I think. And you suddenly become really aware of the length of those sentences, which immediately starts engaging your breath, because you're like, oh my gosh, this is the longest sentence in the world. And you become aware that if you think of one sentence as one thought, you become aware of the expanse of that thought. And obviously, I'm taking Hamlet as one example, and that's obviously a beautifully composed thought that Hamlet has. But it does you become aware from the minute you start walking, you as an actor can start making choices about what you think this character's like. And those choices don't come from your cerebral brain, which is only limited to what we've programmed into that. Okay. When you feel in your body the length of a sentence, whether that's a short sentence or a really long sentence, you'll feel, oh wow, these sentences are really short, they're really stop-start. I feel like I feel quite anxious. I'm feeling like I can't get my words out. I'm not really articulating I'm not flowing. You'll feel that rhythm, which immediately gives the actors a choice. I think this character's holding something back. The sentences are short, they're very direct, they're very and it gives you information. And then you'll notice when the sentences suddenly really open up and you're suddenly walking and you're like, oh, this is great. This is a really long sentence. And it's almost like now the truth's coming out, because when we speak in lovely long sentences, we're just free flowing. We're just letting words out. When we're just saying, hi, yeah, I'm fine. We're holding it in. There's a lot there unsaid, and we're just keeping it. And yes, sometimes it's because it's just a transaction between you and, someone that you don't know. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Fine, great, lovely. But you become aware of those rhythms. And Barbara Hausman's got a wonderful technique that takes you through from walking the sentences to exploring the sounds to physicalizing the words. That's really fun. I do that with my students as well. Like they do a scene and I put them both on mute if we're on Zoom, and they have to physicalize every single word and do the scene purely through movement. So they're having to really actively listen with their whole body.
Yeah.
And suddenly, when you move and you have to find a movement for a word you're saying, you'll really notice which words don't sit in your body. You know, a lot of words we can say you, phone, drinking. There's lots of things we can do physically to show those words. But then if I was to, yes, you come over here, sit down. Yes. Yes, sit down even more. Like I'm translating for everyone now with what I'm seeing on Zoom.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We'll have the visuals on YouTube, so everyone will see what we're doing. So if you're like, you.
But yeah, it frees the actor up. It frees them up. They start connecting to their instincts. I mean, your job. This is something I never got when I was an actor. I always thought this is my absolute ignorance, but maybe it's just says a lot about maybe training back then, way back, because obviously I'm a lot older than you, Oliver. That I always thought that the director would tell me what to do. That's actually not the case.
No, it's not.
You, as an actor, come in with choices. You make choices. You explore. You play. And then the director goes, yeah, let's try this and let's try that. And they take your choices and they build on them or, you know, mold them somehow. And when an actor doesn't make choices, the director's sort of going, what have I got to tell you how to act? Do something. And I think a lot of actors then second guess their choices if they're stuck in their heads, because they start thinking, oh no, I can't do that. That'd be too bold. That's too crazy.
Yeah,
but if they're connected to their instincts, those choices come from a genuine place of that sentence those sentences that this character speaks are really short. I feel like I'm holding something back. I feel very direct in the way I'm approaching. So you're making really tangible choices, which are valid based on the text because you felt it. And that gives you then confidence as an actor. And that's what this is all about. It's about building your confidence in your choices, building confidence in you, in yourself, going back to that whole thing of you are enough.
Exactly. I think I'm just reminded of a story I think Arnold Schwarzenegger told when he was doing Terminator. This might be slightly different, so just forgive me if this is a little bit off topic, but James Cameron wrote the line, "I'll be back," which we all know. And Arnold sort of said, I don't know, I'm a Terminator, I'm a machine, you know, it doesn't fit right in a machine. Surely it'd be, I will be back in a way. But James Cameron just went, okay, look, listen, let's make one thing very clear here, okay? You don't tell me how to write, and I don't tell you how to act. That's the line I've written, and that is what you were going to say. and that's absolute. And I think that sort of reminds me of like what you were saying about the director and stuff like that. The director goes, but you're an actor, that's your job, isn't it? I don't need to tell Djokovic how to play tennis. He just plays tennis. And I don't need to tell Gordon Ramsay how to make a souffle. He knows how to make it. Let him get on with it. If he wants to add, I don't know, raspberries to it or something like that. It's a very random example, but it's just like let these people make their choices. Let the actor make the choice in a way. And I think that's a very good part of it, because I think if you're too reliant on the director, you kind of walk into thinking, just this image of like someone helping you along in a way. It's like, okay, so in this scene you've got to look sad, in this scene you've got to look happy, and it's just like, well, kind of know that already, mate, as I've read the script. But yeah, I don't know if that makes, does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. I think as well it would be nice, and I know certain companies this, but that there's less of a hierarchy when it comes to rehearsals. Obviously the director is the director, has the final say, has everyone calling to that person, lights, sound, costume, movement. We're all like, what you want, it's all coming from the director. So that we do have to have a leader. But I do think, I wish there was more acknowledgement of the process, and I include dancers in this, but that what actors bring, which is their choices, is such a huge part of the creative process. It's not just one person's vision. It's the combination of You know, when I got in the room with all of you with widows, and then I see and sense your energies, your ways of moving, the ways you're approaching things, it's like, oh, it ignites ideas and ways of then coming up with something to apply. And I know that Sabs and I worked together on that, and we loved that, you know, when we put something in the room and see what you then take with that, your choices that you make with that, and let it build. Yeah, I just it would be wonderful to see how, and the same with dancers and choreographers, you know, dancers move and the choreographer goes, oh yeah, that was nice what you just did, which is
do
the
that.
dancer's choice. And yeah, feeling. So I think the more we're aware that it's creativity is such a beautiful, like, smorgasbord melting pot of lots and lots and lots of people's ideas, thoughts, visions, everything coming together to produce something magnificent. And that the actor is not to feel that they are just as equal and as valid is important, I think, especially when it comes to auditions. The casting director wants you to make the choices. The director wants you to make the choices. They want you to come in with your vision, your choice, your idea of it, so that they have something to choose from then. It gives them a choice. Because if we come in and try and I know I did this, give them what you think they want, you're never going to give them anything original. If you come in going, I don't know, I've been told that maybe that they want it like this, or maybe they all come in and you make a choice, even if it's a choice they don't want, they'll remember that you came in with a really clear choice, and they'll go, ooh, I really liked that actor's essence or that quality about them. I think they'd be really great in this. And you start building relationships. You come in as an equal creative from the auditions to rehearsals. And I think that's key for an actor to feel empowered.
Yeah, and I think the connection also, that's great, but I'm just thinking about the connection with the voice as well, because I think voice, you know, is produced for movement as well as a result, you know, with the Laban efforts and stuff. So I've got another story, actually. So all these things just keep popping into my head. There's a story about Eddie Redmayne. About Eddie, if you're listening, mate, I'm sorry, but hopefully he has. Love your work, mate. He went for an audition for Bilbo Baggins before Martin Freeman got the role for The Hobbit, and I think he openly said this on Graham Norton. He said he went on YouTube and tried to copy what Ian Holm did and stuff like that, to try to be like an Ian Holmes kind of, you know, replica or like version number 2. Anyway, it's not Eddie Redmayne coming into the room. And he got into the room and he put on this voice. He was like, my name is Bilbo Baggins, and started doing all these kind of weird stuff. And within about 2 lines, the casting director was like, no, own voice. And, you know, bring your authenticity to the role. And he said, yeah, I didn't get a call back. And that was, I thought that was quite cool. But is that authenticity which you bring physically as well as with the voice and stuff like that? Is that something that you're interested in as well?
Massively. And I think I learned that a lot when I lived in Los Angeles with I trained with, I wanted to go and try lots of different actor training tutors. I'd say tutors. It's slightly different there. They're a little bit like gurus in Los Angeles, which is very different to our conservatoires. It does feel a bit like that, which I don't necessarily agree with, because I think we all learn from different people, you know. But I did work with Howard Fine, who comes from sort of Uta Hagen's lineage of thinking and training.
Yeah.
And when I worked with Howard Fine, he was really big on sort of explaining what is required for the actor, what they need to do. But the one question he asked was, what do you bring to Hollywood? What do you bring? And we're all thinking, I don't know, what do I bring? Do I bring my skill set of my jazz dance? Do I bring my accents? And we're thinking all like this, and he just said, but it's you. You're what you bring to Hollywood. There is no one else like you.
Yeah.
And that's quite remarkable when you really start to tune into your true authentic self. You'll realize how utterly unique, highly employable you are, because there ain't anyone else like you. No one. Maybe some similarities. And that is the one thing I want actors to learn and know. But that's going back to where I believe the more you own your story and you're like, I am who I am, and this is you know yourself, you go on a journey with yourself, you can bring yourself into the room fully, not in a apologetic way, trying to fit in, putting a mask on because this is how I think I need to behave in front of this casting director. Oh, this casting director is very stern and I need to behave like this, and molding ourselves. Instead, just come in, and whether you like me or not, that's not on me. Whether you think what I've chosen to do works or not is not on me. It's on, you. But I know my choices come from instinct, impulse, sensation, combined with my thoughts. It's not that we're just coming in with our body, we're merging the two, mind and body, and then you've got a really powerful instrument at work there, which, as you just said then, is massively integrated with the voice. And I often think you have so much to learn as actors. You're constantly thrown stuff. I could see that in rehearsals as well with widows. You have so much to think about. And I was always like, okay, how can I unthink it and just bring it to their bodies? Because it's you have a lot to think about, a lot to take on. That it's almost like maybe there needs to be in conservatoires training now a more integrated movement voice that goes straight into text, so it's less separate, and a bigger awareness of like we're all connected. The movement, voice comes from the body. It's movement, breath, that connection. The voice then takes the text. We're going to move with the text, and it all become much more integrated. I think maybe the connections can be made quicker for actors. I know that you eventually go, oh, that's why we do that. Oh, that's why we do that exercise. But maybe from the start, we merge them more seamlessly. So it's the awareness of the connection becomes bigger. I have so many actors, especially in LA, where it's predominantly TV and film, that they think movements for theatre. You breathe, don't you? And especially on screen, if you haven't moved and released all your own tension, and you are, not just connecting to your breath, all of that tension and holding and trying to pretend will be so visible on screen, more so than in the theatre. So, having to almost having to advocate for movement a lot with students to help them understand what we mean by movement. It's not dancing, or sometimes it is, but it's your breath. It's the way you blink. It's the way you turn your head. It's everything. Movement is life.
I'm just trying to think I'm just reminded of something which, like the subtlety of movement, I think is just, it can create so much. And I did have an example in my head, but it involves a certain actor I'm not a fan of anymore. His nickname rhymes with Macy, let's put it that way. and sadly, I suppose it's a good example. I'm not going to say his name. It just makes my skin crawl. But he did this wonderful thing in one episode where he'd be doing a scene there, so the camera's looking at him like that angle there, and he goes, "Yeah, I'll be down in a minute. Do you think I'd forgotten you?"
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps you thought I had. And it's just that small thing, it's a shame to use that person, but I think, but that aside, that's small, we talk about big movements and stuff like that and wanting to create that impact, but actually it's just sometimes it is the small subtle things which create the most, like, bloody hell, what's going on?
I don't know whether Rose, in her teaching of Laban, whether she gets you to be very, very physical with the exploration of the efforts.
Particularly with slash and thrust and everything, we're throwing ourselves all over the place.
Great, because it's almost like we have to take it to the absolute limits, so that when we bring it down to stillness, you have that residue, that energy in your body that's gone there, so that when you know that at any minute you could just flash out, and it's possible. If you haven't explored it in your body, it's not been released. It hasn't been, you haven't pushed it to see how far it can go. And I think I heard her talk about rage. You've got to find, where does rage fully go when you let it out in a way that's safe? Because if you don't feel safe and you suddenly are confronted with a scene and the character has to go to immense rage or fury, blind rage, and you haven't gone there, you're not going to go there. You're not going to feel free to go there because it's a very, very uncomfortable emotion in real life. So it makes you feel a little bit nervous about daring to go there. It's the same with movement. If you've fully gone there in your movement, you know it's in your body, then you know you've gone there. But and the same with your voice, if you've really explored something in your voice, and then you do a scene, and you might just keep the scene very still and contained, but you know where it went in your voice when you said a certain word. You know where that word went in your full body. And that will read so clearly in that nuanced way that you have an embodied memory of it. And that reads through the eyes, through something that you do, a little look, because you've experienced it. If you haven't experienced it, it won't be in your body. So it's all of that voice movement, take it as big as possible so that you can actually bring it to stillness. And there's the energy there, there's the essence of it.
Yeah, I did you see the 2014 production of the Crucible at the Old Vic at all? Did you manage to see it?
I didn't. I think I was in Los Angeles then, but
it's on digital theatre, so you can watch it. I think Central give you access to it. I think all universities do. But there's one actor there called Jack Ellis, who played Danforth, and I have to say, as much as I love Richard Armitage as John Protz, I thought he did a fantastic job, but Jack Ellis just stole the show for me as Danforth, as this aggressive, manipulative, and just so dark lawyer, who thought that everything that he said was right. And it was almost like when he walked on stage, just that one moment, even though it's on camera, I didn't manage to see it in the theater, unfortunately, but even on camera, like, he walked in and you just felt this air of shit. And there's this thing of like, this guy's got power, and you feel that power, and he uses power in the wrong way as well to get what he wants or what he believes is right. And that's the character. He thinks it's God's. He's been put on this earth by God to kill anyone who they might even slightly suspect to be a witch. And it's like, that really, really came across in his voice and the way he did everything. And it's just, you could tell that made a huge difference to that. When you feel it here, and I think, Grania at GSA talks about the artistic center, and Rose talks about, like you said, like, you go for like the madness and then you internalize it, and then you have that feeling just sort of like, not bottled up in a way, that's the wrong word to say, but you have it internalized, so it's flowing into the rage is flowing in you, but actually all you're doing is sitting still, or just and it's like,
it's potent.
And I was holding on to my chair thinking, who the fuck is this guy? I was like, I was scared of him. I really, really was. And and like you said, everything that, if you do that, it creates something just so palpable. It's like, oh my God, what am I seeing right now? Who is this guy? Or who is this person? Who is she, or who is they? It's like
the minute someone walks in a room, or the minute someone walks on stage, we are reading them, judging them, sensing them, and nothing has been spoken. So as an actor, understanding that power of having that internalized distillation of whatever physically and vocally you felt on a maximum scale, bringing it into that internalized, potent distillation of the essence of the character. When you walk on, it's felt, whatever that is, whether that's the light airiness of, Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, that's in love, we'll feel it, and we are immediately affected before even words have been spoken. We're like, I feel, we're mirroring people all the time. We're watching their bodies, their muscular tensions, their facial expressions, and we're reading it and we're being affected by it. And the same with you, with that actor coming on in the Crucible, you were like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm terrified now. And it's just an essence that actor's then bringing in before they've even spoken, which shows the power you have as actors. Of that intention, that, right, this is how I'm walking on.
This is how we do it. This is how we create stuff. Yeah. that's amazing. And it's just that aura, it's like you create an aura about you, that you create an aura of slash or anger, or you create this aura of lightness and delight, like Juliet, or you know, the opening scene of The Sound of Music, you know, the hills are alive, the sound of music, and just there's that lightness and freedom there. And you know, Julie Andrews does an incredible job. You know, I'm sure pretty much everyone's seen it, but you know, it's, yeah, and it's just so, that's so great to hear that and have that as yet another thing to add into the actor's toolbox. It's a phrase that we talk about a lot here at GSA. You know, keep adding stuff to that. And you know, thank you for sharing all that. You know, I feel really inspired right now, and you know, and particularly with Alexis as well, the character I played in Widows. You know, if anyone who knows the play knows that he doesn't have a lot to say, poor Alexis. You know, and I did that. I'll be honest, I did that selfish actors thing when I first got the script, and I kind of flicked through it, and I thought, bloody hell, I don't have much to say, do I? But I did that thing. But then I just thought, and then I spoke to, did you meet Chris Palmer when you spent time at GSA at all?
I didn't know.
No, Chris is just wonderful, wonderful lady. She's a voice teacher. She's just a master of the voice. And yeah, she's been on the show and everything, and she's just been an amazing person to learn from. I said to her, oh, yeah, I've got this part. I don't have many lines, but I suppose, is there such a thing as a small part? She goes, no, absolutely not. And you have more to play with as well. She said she did a show where an actor came on stage and only had one word to say throughout the whole show, and that was the word no. But every time he walked on stage with this presence and like the body and the aura he created, and just went, no, I don't know what the context was, but no. And she said he stole the fucking show.
Absolutely. And also there's that famous line, there are no small parts, only small actors.
Very true. Who said that? Who said that again?
I don't know. Again, I'm paraphrasing wildly. Some probably legend. I can't remember now, but it's true.
It's, said it, you're a legend. So.
But it's true. It's like, well, yeah, it is the go-to for a lot of actors. Like, oh, I'm not saying much, but it's like, but a lot of the time, and I think Rose talked about this, isn't it? It's like text is about 5% of the actual communication. The rest is your body, your essence, your energy, your vocal tone, your facial expressions, and then what you actually say. And let's also just consider that very rarely are we actually saying what we really think. We're saying something else. But no, that was wonderful to see your journey with Alexis on that play, because it was very apparent of the through story, and your presence spoke volumes. And I have to say, I mean, that fight scene that obviously I was in the room when you first worked on that. Well, it's not really a fight scene, is it? It's the scene with you and Tracy that was playing Sophia, and Joe that was the captain.
Combat.
Yes, the unfortunate scene in the captain's office where the demise of Alexis, maybe.
But I die.
But it was really interesting how you have to remember, as an actor, we're coming to see a story, and you're all parts of that story. And if you're all wanting to be the lead, voice or the lead point of view, the story can't be told. But what I wanted to say was that I remember watching that scene in the dress rehearsal when we then added that you were in costume and you had the special effects that you needed. Mm-hmm. And I'd watched you rehearse that endless times. I'd seen Andy set it. Mm-hmm. And then when it came to the moment of watching it, I actually gasped with shock. I was like, oh, I was actually shocked. You surprised me and shocked me, and I knew what was coming. And that's about, as an actor, knowing that you are telling the story and that your part is as absolutely equal as a part that has more lines and maybe has the point of view of the story. But without you, the essence of it, or the journey, or the different roles that you all played, wouldn't come together. And it was lovely to see you actually on that journey, Oliver, to see that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Seriously, thank you. I mean, and that was a big thing for me as well, because, and as you say, like, we go through this step by step by step. Yes, we're in the back of our heads or in our bodies. We know, okay, now it's this scene, and now it's the next bit, and my next entrance is here. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, of course we're thinking that. But I think one thing I said to myself was, okay, I have to play this in real time. I have to just take this journey one step at a time. And yes, I know what my next line is. Yes, I know I have to be here. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, now I've done this bit. Now it's the fight sequence. But it was this feeling of you have to be. I tried to be present. I could have gone a bit further with it, but I think I could have been a little bit more present. But I wanted just to prioritize the present tense of Alexis and his backstory, and everything was living in me, and of this. For anyone who hasn't seen the play, Alexis is basically this character who, I think he rebels against Alexandra, his mum. He's Sophia is his grandma, who's significantly more closer to. He's grown up in this world of just playing on rubble, playing on bomb sites, exploring abandoned buildings, because he's looking for that thrill, that freedom, that escape. And my word was freedom. I think we went round in a circle.
Yeah.
Every character's like, what's your need? People were like, I don't know, integrity or power, and mine was freedom, and just finding that. And it really did choke me up with him a few times in rehearsal, and it was like, bloody hell. And I watched some stuff on YouTube. I spoke to someone who actually lived through the Pinochet times, and it was based around the dictatorship in Chile, and it was just like this feeling of, on the surface, like, my God, this kid's got a lot of rotten luck. He hasn't got anything to sort of live for, and then to add insult to already incredible injury, he gets taken away by the police, gets beaten up, and then is killed to make a point that the people in power just want to have even more power. And that's very, very real. That happened in Chile from 73 to 91. So we're telling the truth in a way. People say, oh yeah, but it's just a play, it's not true. On the contrary, sir or madam, or whoever wants to say that. And yeah, we're telling true stories, and that physical journey inside, which you helped immensely with, and was just huge. And
it was interesting, Oliver, watching you following the fight rehearsal that you had. How it shifted you in an embodied way, and you didn't even realize. I think I made a comment to you, and I went, it's almost like you've got the history of that fight that's just happened to you in your body now, and something, you move differently. There was something weightier in you that I went, oh wow, it's amazing that you've spent all of those hours working on that fight that happens in the journey of Alexis's life, and how that really supported and enabled you for a deeper embodiment, which was wonderful to see. Really nice to see that journey. I have a question for you, actually, Oliver.
Yes, go.
Remember we spoke about what is it that you want as an actor? Because it's a little bit about my belief that there are so many people that want to be actors, and sometimes I think actors think it's only just about the work. But I believe that to be an actor is actually a way of life, and it's actually about an ongoing practice, because the work, the work, it comes, it goes, it's there, it's not. It happens quite a lot, and then suddenly dry period of nothing. So actors cannot have their sense of self and their sense of worth completely attached to work. Of course, work will happen, the joy of that will happen, but what is it for you that you love or want to bring as an actor?
Wow, well, great question. What am I going to bring? Yeah, you've got me thinking now. I
feel like you just answered it, actually, when you were talking about play.
Yeah, I would say what I want to bring is authenticity. One huge journey for me through my BA and through this year was to embrace who I am, and what I like to do, what makes me happy, and if that, it's like partying until 4 o'clock in the morning. I've discovered that's not me, and stuff like that. I would be sitting there going, can I go home now? I don't like this anymore. Music's too loud. But don't get me wrong, that's a good night. But anyway, yeah, I just want to embrace me. And I spent far too much time, I think, just as you said earlier, just like almost like apologizing for me just being in a room or something like that. And I've sort of had people say to me, and I've said to myself, look, stop it. Just, you are who you are, your authentic self. And I believe a lot more now in myself, and have faith in myself about what I can bring to the table. What, I know what I can bring to the table. I'm just going to say it. I can bring hard work, I can bring authenticity, and I can bring me and my perceptions of who this person is. And I want to bring it to the stage. And God, it's like, I don't know how to articulate it, but yeah, I just want to bring myself to the table, what I can offer. If it's not what you're looking for, then fine. I just want to have the opportunity to show what I can do.
Yeah.
And then we just move on to the next job. And it's been a huge a roller coaster of a process just to say, I am Oliver Gower and this is what I do.
I mean, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the first word you said was authenticity. And then you talked about widows, about telling the stories. It's like, it's so important.
Yeah.
We have more people that are authentic, telling stories, being themselves. And that is massive. And that means that you'll be on this journey forever, because it's an ongoing thing that you'll keep uncovering and discovering more about.
Yeah, massively. And again, you said earlier, like, okay, it's almost like we go to drama school, we leave, we're actors. And it's like, okay, no. Okay, I've still got so much to do, so much to do. And it's funny because, again, going back to Yael Farber, she said to all of her casts, never stop searching. Never stop searching for, even on that last performance, you'll be saying to Jack Ellis or Richard Armitage or everyone in the cast, Adrian Schiller, pick up that script or just go for a walk, or just find something that you haven't discovered yet. You might discover something on the last performance. You go, oh shit, why didn't I discover that earlier? And but that's part of it. And I look back on Alexis now and think, I could have done this, or I could have done that. It was like, well, okay, look, it doesn't matter.
Good sign though.
Yeah, no, I suppose, yeah. But I said to Matthew Monaghan, the director, I said to him, look, I wish we had like a week of performances. Let's do 8 shows. I want to do a full week of a run and just to see what else we discover, because I think there's so much more I could have done with Alexis. I'm don't get me wrong, I'm very happy with what I did, but there's always that feeling of my gut. I'm in my gut right now is to say, look, there's always further you can go. There's always that little bit further, or that whatever the distance, you can always go that little bit further. And
that comes, I think, from it settling as well. Like the text, the what you have to do settles, and suddenly you're like, oh, let me do it again, because now I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about that costume change. I don't have to worry about that. I can just do it. And that's quite normal. So yeah, you're right that it's nice to get a longer run. But I think it's really good that you are still thinking, there was more. And I think that's great. It just means that you're wanting to continue that exploration. And it was such a visceral, palpable play, Widows. The way Matthew had directed it, the set, the sound design, the lighting, the fight, obviously the movement, the elements involved, and then obviously the story, and all of you actors bringing that to life. It was gloriously visceral.
Yeah.
You could really feel it. And like reach out and touch it, the world that was created, which was really exciting.
It was a blessing to be a part of, and an experience that I'll never forget. Absolutely.
I feel the same, Oliver. I feel very blessed that was my experience as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, Rebecca, I could talk to you for hours, honestly. I still have so many questions to ask you, but I know we're pushed for time. So we've got to wrap up now, but I want to finish on one last question just before you shoot off. Out of everything you've done so far, and obviously you're going to continue to do amazing things in movement and acting and directing, and I know you've got your film, was it Moved?
Moved.
That's up on the Central website, which I think is a beautiful exploration of someone looking back on old photos and visualizing their partner next to them and feeling that movement again. It's on the Central website, guys. Seriously, go check it out. It's and it's on Vimeo as well. It's just
and these are two great actors, by the way, Matthew Law and Gracie Mercedes. They're amazing actors.
amazing.
And,
Yeah. And like you said, like earlier, it's like bringing that movement to the camera and everything. It's like there is no separation. There's no difference between the theatre and the camera. So that I think obviously you might have to tone it down just a little bit in cameras. Not tone it down, but like find a way of just, I don't know, is it the same when you rehearsed, like if you rehearsed it in a space then on camera? Was there a great difference?
Well, Matt Hopp, he was the camera operator. He just moved with me, so I sort of was stood behind him watching it from the camera. So then instead of, when we did the rehearsals in the studio without the camera, and then when the camera was there, then it became about what my eyes became the camera. And so the movement looked very differently because we could then get close-ups of hands, connecting, and so it does change it. So the camera becomes part of the choreography as well, or the movement.
Absolutely.
So that is quite interesting. So it wasn't really toned down, but you just become aware of, just where you bring your eye, the focus.
Sorry. Tone down was the wrong word to use there. So apologies for that. But it's great. So the question I want to finish on today is, of everything you've done, and you're going to continue to do some amazing things. I'm looking forward to more films that you're going to put out and more other projects you're going to be involved with, and which I'll definitely come and see or definitely watch. In everything you've done so far, tell me about an experience that you've had to this day that you'll never ever forget.
I think okay, there's like, I think this is the deep down, my inner child who wanted to deep down be Kylie Minogue or Madonna. I think my big experience that I absolutely loved as a performer was when I did the music video Sonny J. I felt like I actually was Kylie Minogue or Madonna for one day. Just 8 hours I pretended to be that person, and I think it was made more extraordinary because it was one of those opportunities that came about. A friend calling me, someone's looking for an actress dancer. Are you in London at the moment? Yes, I am. Can you go to this place and meet the director? Oh, okay. I met the director, had to come back and meet the choreographer. And then it was filming the next day. It was such a quick thing. And to suddenly be on set, it was at the George Lucas studio in Elstree, Boreham Wood. And it was this massive, beautiful set. And I had the most glorious experience of 8 hours of being me pretending to be Madonna or Kylie Minogue. But I think I'm really excited. So that was like a big moment of what I remember, which is, I think, going back to connecting to our joy, connecting to what we really love. I have many wonderful experiences and memories of shows I've done. The Fox by D.H. Lawrence, which was at the English Theatre in Frankfurt. That was a massive, amazing experience, directed by Ryan McBride. But I'm actually really looking forward to this next chapter for me as I now transition more into, I want to do much more writing. I've got my ideas on my book that I want to write. And just exciting about supporting actors on this journey.
Good. I can't wait for the release.
Me too. When it's written.
Is it will it be in shops this year, or are we looking more to
no, let's get the MA finished first.
and then we'll start writing.
Then we'll move on to the next bit of writing.
I look forward to that, and of course the films and the projects and everything in between. Rebecca, thank you so much for today. This has been an absolute joy.
Oliver, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I've still got all these questions I want to ask you, but we might have to do a part 2 or something. I'm not sure, but I'm sure I'll find the time to ask you those questions again. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in, and I'll be back soon. And Rebecca, once again, I'll finish the recording now. If you just hang on, I'll say goodbye to you one-to-one after we finish. And but yeah, thank you so much again, and guys, thank you, and I'll be back soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.